This Spotlight series for Cloud Manager is based on Image 11. This video discusses installing and setting up Cloud Manager. Check out the Spotlight series page on the PeopleSoft information portal for other videos in the series. You can watch them in order or individually depending upon where you are in your Cloud Manager implementation. We will begin the preparation for the installation by reviewing the requirements for installing Cloud Manager in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Then we will generate the API and SSH key pairs needed to access the instance and create a user, a group, and a compartment that can be used for Cloud Manager. Then we will obtain the Cloud Manager stack and install it. After installation, we sign into the Cloud Manager instance in a browser and configure the settings pages. After that, we will create the file system for the Cloud Manager repository and subscribe to a few channels. We also will review documentation resources. To prepare for the installation, you will review prerequisites and set up a new user, group, compartment, and policies, and also create the necessary SSH and API key pairs. To create a user, group, and compartment, you need an Oracle Cloud Infrastructure account that has administrative user access. The Cloud Manager administrator must have subscriptions to compute, object storage, file storage, and resource manager services. If you want to use the database cloud service for provisioned environments, you will also need a subscription to that service. Your tenancy must have sufficient resources. For this demonstration, you will need at least one VM shape for the Cloud Manager instance and additional shapes for any provisioned environments you have planned. You will need at least one file system for the Cloud Manager repository. You also may choose to use file systems for shared mid-tiers in provisioned environments, and you would need additional file systems for that. If you are creating a new file system, you will need a mount target. One mount target can have several export paths and several file systems associated with it. The OCI account owner can check resources from the Limits, Quotas, and Usage page in the OCI console. Use the drop-down list at the top of the page to select the services and resources you need. For example, select Compute and notice that there are VM shapes available. Then go to File Storage and verify that there are file systems and a mount target available. The PeopleSoft licensing information user manuals include details about entitled products, restricted use licensing grants, and other requirements you may need to fulfill for certain Cloud Manager features. This information includes the requirement for a COBOL compiler license, which you must obtain to use one of the supported COBOL compilers with a provisioned environment, and the license information for Oracle database products. You can find the licensing information user manual for your PeopleSoft application in the Oracle Help Center. Enter My Oracle Support credentials when you fill in the Cloud Manager settings page. You need a My Oracle Support account to download PeopleSoft images, BRPs, PeopleTools patches, and other items to the repository. For the purposes of this video, we are using a Windows computer that has a Firefox browser, which we will use to access Cloud Manager after setup. To install and use the Cloud Manager installation, you must generate an SSH key pair and an API key pair. The SSH key pair is used to provide secure shell connection to an instance. We previously installed the third-party PuTTY software, which we will use to generate the SSH public and private keys. First, we use PuTTygen, which is part of the PuTTY toolset, to generate an SSH key pair. Later in this video, we will use PuTTy to access the Cloud Manager instance in the OCI console. Cloud Manager requires an RSA key with a minimum of 2048 bits. When you click Generate and move the mouse in the window, PuTTy generates random data in the key. Change the default comment to something descriptive. We will not enter a passphrase for this demonstration. Then save the private key with a PPK extension. The PPK extension refers to the PuTTy private key format, which is a proprietary format that works only with the PuTTy toolset. For the public key, copy into a text file and save with a file name that has a pub extension. You will input the public key when you fill out the form for the Resource Manager stack. Use the private key with PuTTy to access the Cloud Manager compute instance, for example, when you check the status log file. In addition to the SSH key pair, you need an API signing key pair for authentication when Cloud Manager submits API requests. The Cloud Manager installation requires a public and private RSA key pair in PEM format with at least 2048 bits. We will use a Git bash shell to generate the API private and public keys. Git bash lets you run bash commands on a Windows operating system. You will enter the public API key on the page for the user in the OCI console. We previously created a directory to hold the keys, so we go to the directory and create the private key with an OpenSSL command. This form of the command requires a passphrase, which you enter at the blinking cursor. Change the permission so that no other user can use the key. Enter another OpenSSL command to use the private key and output a public key. After you generate the keys in the Git bash shell, you can find them on the Windows C drive in the temp Cloud Manager directory. You will come back to this directory after you set up the tenancy. To set up the necessary resources for the Cloud Manager installation, sign in to the OCI console as a user with administrator privileges. Select Identity Users from the main menu and click Create User. Enter the name CMadmin Spotlight for the user, add a description, and add a tag. You can use tagging to filter the list of results. Do not enter an email address for this demonstration. Click Create. Copy the user OCID to a text file to use when you install Cloud Manager. On the Details page for the user, go to the API Keys section, click Add Public Key, and paste the text for the public API key that you generated. Then click Add. The fingerprint for the API key appears on the User Details page. Now open the Create Group page. Enter the name CM Group Spotlight for the new group, a description and a tag, then click Create. Open the Group Details page and add the new user to the group. Compartments provide separation among users of a cloud account. Create a compartment called Compartment Spotlight. Select Policies and click Create Policy. You set up policies to enable the group to obtain the Cloud Manager image and any other necessary images from the OCI console. Call this policy Policy Spotlight and add a description. Select Keep Policy Current, which ensures that the policies stay current if any of the policy definitions change when OCI services change. Add 3 statements: to allow the group to manage all resources in the compartment, to enable the group to read all resources in the tenancy, and to enable the group to manage the app catalog listing in the tenancy. When you are finished, click Create. Now you are ready to install Cloud Manager from a Resource Manager stack. Resource Manager is an Oracle Cloud Infrastructure service that helps you install, configure, and manage resources. Resource Manager comes with Terraform, which allows you to specify your infrastructure in configuration files. You can review and edit, reuse, and share the Resource Manager stacks across teams. The Resource Manager stack is a Terraform template that references the Cloud Manager image. It comes with an input form that you use to supply OCI credentials and passwords for the Cloud Manager instance. You also use the form to specify the type of networking resources you want. After you supply the necessary information on the input form and initiate stack creation, Resource Manager sets up the networking resources and Linux VM for the Cloud Manager instance and then runs the setup script. The Cloud Manager installation requires a virtual cloud network, or VCN, with subnets, gateways, route tables, and security lists. You can create a VCN before you begin the Cloud Manager installation, or you can install it as part of the Cloud Manager stack setup with Resource Manager. You can create public subnets, which are open to the Internet, or private subnets. With private subnets, you can also create a jump host to provide Internet access. For this video, we will show you how to create a VCN with public subnets. The default VCN that Resource Manager creates includes public subnets and security list for a full-tier environment, and nodes for an application server, database, Windows client, PIA and Elasticsearch node, and mid-tier. The VCN is designed with the appropriate security list and ports so that when you provision PeopleSoft environments, you can use these subnets and the PeopleSoft components will be able to communicate with Cloud Manager and with each other. For example, if using a mid-tier subnet and database subnet, the security list for each subnet are set up so that the database subnet allows traffic from the mid-tier subnet. The Cloud Manager instance connects to a file system set up on the file storage service through a mount target. This instance with public subnets has access to the Internet through a NAT gateway. To install Cloud Manager, get the Resource Manager stack from the Marketplace service in OCI. Accept the Oracle terms and launch the stack in the compartment. After filling in the required information and starting the stack creation, You can follow the progress by checking the status log. When the process is complete, sign into Cloud Manager in a browser and fill in the Settings and Infrastructure Settings pages. Then create a new file system in the File Storage service and subscribe to channels to begin downloading PeopleSoft images, PeopleTools patches, and PRPs from My Oracle support. To begin the Cloud Manager installation, sign in to the OCI console as the new CMadmin Spotlight user. Select Marketplace Applications from the menu and search for PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. The Cloud Manager stack page includes links to installation and reference documentation. Select the new compartment that you created and select the option to say you understand the Oracle terms. Then click Launch Stack, which takes you to the Resource Manager input page. Accept the default name for the stack, add a tag, and click Next. Select an availability domain that has sufficient shapes, block storage, network resources, and file storage service resources for the Cloud Manager instance. Use the information you generated during preparation to fill out the form. Copy the user ID and paste it into the form, and do the same with the SSH public key that you generated. Paste in the API private key and the passphrase. Select the home region for your tenancy from the drop-down list. Enter the passwords for the PeopleSoft Connect ID, the Access ID, the Database Administrator, the Cloud Manager Administrator, the Integration Gateway User, the WebLogic Administrator, the Web Profile User, and the Domain Connection password. Use PSFTCM as the host name for the Cloud Manager instance. Select Create Network Resources to create a new VCN and name it PSFTCM Net. For the purpose of this demonstration, we want our Cloud Manager instance in a public subnet, so you will not create private subnets or a jump host. If you had chosen to create private subnets, you could also create a jump host to enable access from the Internet. Select the option to create subnets for your PeopleSoft components. Because you choose the option to create public subnets and do not create a jump host, the Resource Manager process will set up the public subnets with Internet access for the PIA, HTTP, and HTTPS ports by default. Select Show Advanced Networking Details to scroll through the list of networking items, such as subnets and ports that Resource Manager will set up. Then review your choices for the stack. When you click Create to start the instance creation, you are taken to the Job Details page in the OCI console with the job in progress. The job status changes to Succeeded after a few minutes, but the process to create the Cloud Manager instance is not complete at this point. You will check the status log in the VM next. Before you check the progress in the status log, look at some of the information on this page. The Job Details page shows the logs for the Terraform process. The Outputs page lists URLs you use to sign into Cloud Manager in a browser, as well as the public and private IP addresses. You can review the input for the Resource Manager form on the Variables page. The Associated Resources page has links to the various instances and networking resources that the Resource Manager stack sets up. For example, clicking this link takes you to the Cloud Manager instance. To check the progress of the instance creation, we access the Cloud Manager instance with PuTTY using the public IP address from the Outputs page. To set up PuTTY, enter the IP address for the instance on the Session page. Enter 5 seconds for the keep alive time. Then browse to the location where the SSH private key is saved on your local machine. Go back to the Session page, enter a name, save the session, and click Open. Sign in as the OPC user and go to the Bootstrap directory. Use the command more cloudmanagerstatus.log to list the log and press the spacebar to move down page by page. Running the script takes several minutes. You know it is finished when the log displays the Cloud Manager PIA URL. After the instance creation is complete, fill out the Cloud Manager settings. Enter the PIA URL in the browser and sign in as the Cloud Manager Administrator user with the password you supplied on the Resource Manager stack form. Go to the Cloud Manager Settings page and enter the user ID and password for a user with a MyOracle support account. You do not need to include a COBOL compiler license for this demonstration, so save the page. On the Infrastructure Settings page, the information at the top came from the entries on the Resource Manager stack form and from the OCI account. In the Operating Systems area, select a Marketplace image for Linux. This Linux image will be used for the provisioned environments. The Microsoft Windows image will be used to host PeopleSoft client tools such as Change Assistant and Application Designer in your provisioned environments. Use one of the Oracle platform images for Microsoft Windows 2016. Go to the OCI Online Help, copy the OCID for a recent Windows 2016 image, and paste that on the Cloud Manager Settings page. Save the page and then refresh the OCI metadata. After refreshing the page and waiting a few minutes, the green check marks indicate that the data has been refreshed. Now you can proceed with creating a new file system for the Cloud Manager repository. The options on the File Server page are set up to create a new file system and mount target. The file system is created on the File Storage service. The default file system name and export path are based on the Cloud Manager instance name and domain, so you can accept the defaults. Enter a name for the new mount target and click Create. Click More Info to review the status of the steps to create and mount the file system. When the file system is ready after a few minutes, the status changes to FSS Configured. In case there are any problems, you can check the Logs page. To subscribe to channels for downloading artifacts from MyOracle support, go to Repository, Download Subscriptions. The Unsubscribed page lists the available channels. Subscribe to channels for Interaction Hub, which is required for Cloud Manager self-updates, and to HCM. Subscribe to PeopleTools 858 and do not enter a minimum product patch number. This will download only the latest PeopleTools 858 patches from My Oracle support. Go to the subscribed page to follow the progress. Downloading from My Oracle support begins immediately and continues for some time. When the icons for the channels display a green check mark, you can look at the results. On the Downloads History page, select the HCM image, for example, to see the download status, and the zip files downloaded for the image. The items on the My Downloads page include PeopleSoft application images and PRPs. This list also includes COBOL and the DPK for the Oracle Database Server software. Select the Action button for the Interaction Hub image to see the list of bugs included in the image. You can filter the list of results by name, type, product, version, and operating system platform. For example, select Application Update Images to limit the list to the Interaction Hub and HCM images. Click the filter icon again and click Clear to see the entire list. A later video in this series demonstrates using the Upload Custom Scripts page. For additional information, you can access these resources for PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. The Cloud Manager homepage on My Oracle Support includes installation and implementation information, as well as additional resources for your environment. View Cloud Manager in the PeopleSoft Information Portal and go to the PeopleSoft Technology blogs to get the latest updates about Cloud Manager. Go to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure documentation for information about OCI services and features.